Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Baxter, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar on turning visitors to your website into customers and how there are probably 5 things you're missing from your website that will help you do that. The goal today is to give you a real how-to guide on how to convert those visitors into customers. We're going to be showing a lot of live demonstrations, which is always somewhat of a risk, but where's the fun in life without a bit of risk? And we're going to tell you what you need to do it all yourself, because if you want to follow the DIY route, you can do. This isn't a training course per se, it is a webinar, but we don't want it to be that kind of webinar where we show you all these potential things you could do without giving you some kind of action plan that you could follow to put them into action. So let's get on with the webinar itself. The key to converting website visitors into customers is to engage them with the content that you've got on your website, because they've come to your website because they want the information they think you've got. So our job is to get that information to them in as appealing and as enticing a way as possible. We've got to make them want to go from one page to another, make them want to click on that image and zoom into it, to fill in that form, or if your website supports it, to purchase that product. We're going to talk about 5 technologies that will help you do that, to make that conversion from a visitor to a customer. And we're going to deal with those 5 technologies in order of simplicity, with the simplest first. But before we go on to that, we're going to answer one very important question. And that is, why bother? Because up until now, everybody's focus has been on attracting more people to your website. If your website isn't performing the way you want it to, if it's not generating enough revenue, the answer has always been traditionally, get more people to the website. So why are we saying that conversion of visitors to customers is now more important than attracting more visitors to your website? Well, if you're talking about conversion, you've probably been shown a picture like this before, because every webinar on conversion uses pretty much the same picture. This is a great metaphor in many ways. It's, the leaky bucket. It represents your sales funnel. You've got plenty of activity going in, but there's lots of potential leaking out. And as metaphors go, that's absolutely fine. But it would be far more helpful. It would help you understand the scale of the problem and the importance of conversion if we deal with some numbers. So let's say that the revenue from your website can be calculated as the number of visitors you get multiplied by the conversion rate, i.e. the rate at which you convert them from visitors to customers, multiplied by the value of each of those customers. So in number terms, imagine you had 1,000 visitors to your website, your conversion rate was 0.2%, which I know sounds unbelievably low, but it's not that unrealistic with a lot of sites. And your customer value is £5,000 per customer. Don't worry about the time period, month, quarter, year, it doesn't matter for this example. But if those are your stats, you'd be generating £10,000 of revenue. And now here's the question. How do you double the revenue you get from your website? Well, obviously there are 2 ways. You could either double the number of visitors you get from 1,000 to 2,000, that doubles your revenue. But you can also double the conversion rate from 0.2 to 0.4%. That will achieve the same goal. So my question to you is this, and think about it in your situation. How easy do you think it would be to double the number of website visitors you get on your website? My guess is that it would be incredibly difficult, because you've been doing SEO, you've been doing lots of activities on your website to attract new visitors, probably for the last decade. And it's bloody hard work. Everyone in your market is competing for those same customers, and some of those competitors might be enormous organizations. So the idea that you're going to be able to double your website visitors, that's probably a bit, how should we say, optimistic. On the other hand, you probably haven't done much yet in terms of converting visitors to paying customers. That's why your conversion rate is probably very low at the moment. So that gives you plenty of scope to double, triple, or quadruple your conversion rate. And it doesn't matter if you're going from 0.2 to 0.4% or 2% to 4% or 5 to 10, whatever. There's a lot of scope for converting, for improving your conversion rate. So that's one way of looking at it, but there's another way of looking at it as well. And that's the profitability of the work you do. Profit, obviously, is revenue minus costs. So it makes sense that any activity that you do that increases revenue, it is more attractive if it doesn't increase costs at the same time. It's more profitable. So look back again at those two activities we were talking about. Increasing visitors to your website. Let's say you want to double the number of visitors you have on your website. How are you going to do that? Well, you're pretty well guaranteed you're going to have to do some advertising, and it's going to cost money. It will probably be digital advertising, pay-per-click, but it might be outdoor, it might be print media, whatever. You might do sponsorship, you might do events once COVID's over and we can actually do events again. A lot of things like that. Plus, you'll have to invest marketing time as well to design those adverts, to run those campaigns, and to maybe improve your SEO activities. That is going to be an expensive project. Alternatively, how about improving your conversion rate? Well, there are ways you can improve your conversion rate without any financial outlay at all, but that's actually a separate webinar. What we're going to be talking about today are 5 technologies you can implement, but they're all reasonably priced technologies, because this is a webinar, because Forbes Baxter is here for the SME community. We're not talking about these tools that cost thousands of pounds or even many hundreds of pounds every month. We're talking about far more economical tools. So there'll be that expense, and there will be obviously the investment of marketing time as well. It's far more affordable, far more profitable to improve your conversion rate than it is to try and attract more visitors to your website. So that hopefully has answered the question of why you would want to be improving conversion rate. Now let's move on to the meat of the day. Let's move on to the technologies themselves. First technology we're going to talk about is the simplest, image maps. At its most basic, an image map just takes a picture and then turns it into an information point, a gateway to other parts of your website, lots of exciting things like that. I'm not going to leave you just with that picture on screen. I promised you a lot of demonstrations, so let's start off straight away. Right, now you can see we've gone straight to our website. This is live. You can look at this page yourself after the webinar. It'll behave just the same for you as it's about to for me. You can see that picture. Is it a picture? No, it's an image map. So when you hover over hotspots on the image map, at the most basic, what an image map can do is it can pop up some extra text. Just realize what I've got to do in this webinar. I've got a quite bizarre sense of humor, so you're going to need some. You're going to see some fairly strange, humorous anecdotes in the webinar. So I probably ought to apologise for that. So the most basic, what a image map can do is just present some extra text. But let's say you're in an example where you're promoting and you're selling a machine, and there's some element, some part of that machine someone might want to zoom into in great detail. Well, you can do that. You can put a hotspot in there, and you can show a picture as well. And that picture can be zoomed to full screen if you want to. What you can also do is you can actually play videos. So if someone wants to know where a button is, great, show them a picture. If they want to know how that button works, you can show them a video. And that could be a button on a machine, or it could be a button on a software package, anything like that. And I am aware, by the way, I've got the audio here because I'm looking at the website. I know that the audio doesn't actually come through the webinar. So if you want to see the audio in action with the video, go to the website afterwards. What you can also do with image maps is you can use them as signposts to different parts of your website. So if we were selling aircraft and somebody, excuse me, somebody was particularly interested in the flaps and how they work, it's a hotspot. You can click on it, bang, it takes you to another part of your website. Okay, so that's what an image map can do. And hopefully that's pretty clear how it can help anyone who sells or manufactures technology and that kind of thing. But it's not just for complex devices like aircraft. It can be used for simple products as well. And the example I always use is birdseed. Now, you probably wouldn't want to use an image map of a birdseed. I'm not entirely sure what you could say about a birdseed, but you might want to use an image map of a bird and highlight all the parts of that bird that will be more healthy through using your birdseed as opposed to somebody else's. So it works for simple products as well as complex products. But it doesn't just work for tangible products either. It works for services. So that, you might think, is a list of the services that we offer as a marketing agency. You're dead right, it is. But it's not just a picture. Again, live demo. This is our website. There's that same picture. Is it just a picture? No, it's an image map. So when I highlight one of the services on offer, first of all, it gives me extra information about that service. If I click on it, it takes me to the page about that service. So all of a sudden, the image map has become a sort of signpost and gateway to other parts of the website. It's a tool that can sit on your pages, that can advertise the services you offer and draw people deeper into your website, which is exactly what you want to do if your goal is to convert the casual visitor ultimately into a paying customer. So that's how you can use it if you're a service or professional services organization. So that's lawyers, accountants, architects, management consultants, anything like that. You don't have to be selling a tangible product. You can use image maps for services as well. So that's how image maps work. How do you put them into action? Again, we don't want this to be just a theoretical demo. All you need is a very simple tool called Image Map Pro. Costs a grand total of $38 per site. So I have difficulty believing there's any website out there that can't afford that. The bigger question is probably, can you develop an image map yourself? And my advice there would be, well, all software nowadays comes with either a money-back guarantee or a free trial period. So get Image Map Pro, install it on your website. If you can develop your own image maps, great. If you can't, you've got two choices. Choice number one is say, okay, forget it, we won't do image maps. That's not a great choice because, again, this is a fundamental part of turning visitors into customers. If you don't have image maps, you'll just be tying one hand behind your back. The second option is to say, we still want image maps, come to us. We'll develop the image maps for you. So that is the first technology. The second technology, and forgive me for laughing here on this one, pop-ups. You're probably sitting there saying, how does he dare mention pop-ups? Pop-ups, you'll know the idea. They're the little things that just pop up in the corner of your screen and give you a little bit of text and a button to press. They have got an abysmal reputation. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I'm not trying to deny that. But the problem is the technology has got a lousy reputation because it's been used badly. It's been terribly abused. And to me, that's a bit like blaming a car because some idiot thinks it's a great idea to sink 16 pints and drive the wrong way down the M1. It ain't the car's fault. It's not the technology. It's the way it's used. So, you don't want pop-ups that, occupy the entire screen, that flash up in front of you every time you go to any page on a particular website, that are difficult to get rid of. You just don't want that because that's the kind of thing that gives pop-ups and marketing as a whole a terrible reputation. So with that kind of thing going against them, you are probably wondering why I dare mention them. Well, the reason is because they actually work. And this kind of antipathy towards pop-ups reminds me, I used to be a writer for Computer Shopper magazine years ago. And whenever we met our readers, they'd say, why do you let advertisers put those insert adverts in the magazine? Don't you know, every month when we get our magazine, we hold it over the bin, we shake it, and the adverts go straight in the bin. Yeah, but here's the thing. Those adverts still worked. It might have annoyed some people, but other people purchased from the adverts, so they worked. And it's exactly the same with pop-ups. Some people respond to them, but it's our job as modern marketers, or dare I even say it, ethical marketers, to make those pop-ups as palatable as possible. So we don't want to wind up and annoy 999 visitors to your website so that we can convert one of them into a customer. That is not acceptable and it's not sustainable, and economically it makes no sense at all. So we want the better way of doing pop-ups. So let's go back to demos. Right, once again, we're doing a live demo. So this is our website. It'll behave exactly the same for you as it does now. There's our homepage. Do you see a pop-up? No, you don't. You don't see a pop-up there because I don't know what you're interested in yet. So for the purpose of this webinar today, let's pretend I'm a visitor coming to the website, and what I'm interested in is brand marketing. That's what I want to find out more about. So I do a search for brand. And in the background, the website says, ah, look at that, the address bar. He's searched for brand. He's interested in brand. Am I going to do anything? No, because I haven't shown a strong interest yet, just a casual interest. So let's say now I click on one of those pages and I go to that page. Now in real life, what would happen is you'd want several examples of somebody's interest. You'd want them to go to a couple of pages, maybe download something or click on an image or subscribe to an email list. You'd want a fairly strong expression of interest, but that would take too long for today's demo, so I've cut it back a bit. So there's the pop-up. It then appears on screen and you can close it. Excuse me, I'll just move that so I can close the pop-up because I don't need to see any more of that today for today's demo. So the pop-up appears, the mechanism is all fairly clear, but the question is, how do you use pop-ups properly for the 21st century or 2021 and beyond? So here are your golden rules, working through the dial from 1 o'clock onwards. First of all, wait for your visitors to express an interest in a topic. So don't put it on the homepage, wait for that expression of interest, and then, second point, when you know what they're interested in, show them a pop-up that they're interested in. Apart from anything else, that's just polite, because even when you do them properly, pop-ups are an intrusion. They interrupt what someone was doing. So if you don't want to annoy your customers, and if you want a good conversion rate, make the pop-up related to the subject that your customer was interested in. Next point. Don't make the pop-up appear, that's a bit of a tongue twister, don't make the pop-up appear as soon as the web page loads. Again, just be polite. Give your visitors a chance to read what's on the page first. Second reason you don't want the pop-up to appear straight away is that Google is taking an intense interest in the speed with which pages load. If you make the pop-up part of that page load procedure, Google is going to hammer you. Don't do that. Next, make your pop-ups unobtrusive and small, or as unobtrusive and small as you can. So don't put it in the middle of the screen. Don't make it take up the whole screen, because that just annoys users. If you want to see examples of websites that do that, this is the ultimate irony. Go to Marketing Week, because Marketing Week also does the next thing, breaks the next golden rule. Don't use overlays. Overlays are those bits that grey out your entire screen except for the pop-up. Again, main reason for doing that, Google hates them. Next, obey dismissal. So that pop-up appeared a second ago in the demo. I clicked the close button, it disappeared. Don't throw the pop-up back in the visitor's face when they go to the next page. And don't keep on throwing it in the visitor's face on every page he or she visits. It doesn't mean you can never use the pop-up again, but give the visitor 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, something like that. So yes, you can keep on reusing it, but don't overuse it. Don't bombard your visitors, because the whole idea of this is you're trying to develop a good relationship with the people who've come to your website, and annoying them is not a way to do that. Next up, don't duplicate. Okay, here's a situation we're all familiar with. You go onto Amazon, you buy something, you leave Amazon, go to another website, an advert pops up offering, telling you, do you want to buy what you've just bought? That does nothing but annoy everybody. And pop-ups can be just as annoying if you do that. So if you know somebody's downloaded a document, or you know they've subscribed to an email series, don't show them a pop-up that says, do you want that download, or do you want to subscribe to that email series? You're just going to annoy them. Of course, to obey that rule, you've got to have probably marketing automation in the background, making a record all the time of what people have downloaded and what email series they've subscribed to. Lastly, in terms of golden rules, remove danger. So we've got, quite rightly, I think, very cautious about responding to websites nowadays, with privacy being as important and, to be honest, as abused as it has been. We don't just click on buttons readily nowadays. So try and make the button look as benign as possible. So obviously we're cautious about pressing those buy now buttons, but we're fairly cautious about sign me up and things like that as well. So you'll have noticed on the pop-up example I showed you a minute ago, it said, maybe tell me more, because that says, I'm just inviting you to somewhere where you'll see more information. I'm not committing you to anything at all yet. So try and remove that element of risk or danger, because people feel more comfortable that way. Final point I'd make on this slide, and it's not a golden rule, it's just a personal preference. Don't use pop-ups for known visitors. So if somebody's on your website and they've filled in a form and got a download or subscribed to an email series, and you therefore know who they are, don't use pop-ups anymore, because from that point you're trying to develop a strong and positive relationship with that person. And even when you use a pop-up ethically and properly, there's still an interruption. There are better ways to understand what a known visitor is interested in and to nurture that relationship, and we'll show you that during the marketing automation demo. So don't use a pop-up for known visitors, just use them for anonymous visitors. Okay, so that is how you can use pop-ups and how I would say you ought to use pop-ups. What tools do you need to put them into action? Well, download the show notes after the webinar, because they contain, in the notes section, they contain the names and websites of tools that you can use. You can use things like Opt-in Monster, SumoMe, Mail Opt-in, etc. You could obviously use one of the big name marketing automation platforms, so Marketo, Salesforce, HubSpot, etc. Very capable platforms, a bit pricey. But we will always recommend people go down the Zoho One route. You may never have heard of Zoho One. It hasn't got a big brand name. It is a suite of about 40 applications. 2 of those applications are what's called Zoho Marketing Hub, marketing automation platform, and Zoho PageSense, which is a website enhancement tool. Both of them allow you to do pop-ups. Marketing Hub is the preferred route because it's the marketing automation platform, so it remembers what people have downloaded, what email series they've subscribed to, so you can avoid breaking that golden rule about don't duplicate. Cost-wise, it's incredibly affordable, very well priced, Zoho One, but it's got a strange pricing structure. If you subscribe everybody in your organization to Zoho One, it's £30 per user per month, which, to be honest, is ridiculously cheap. But that's only suitable for marketing agencies where everyone might want to use all the tools. If you're a normal company where you might just want to subscribe your marketing department to use it, then it's £80 per user per month. Still a fraction of what you'd pay with many of the other platforms. And remember, that's a suite of 40 applications. We're hardly going to cover any of them today, but we'll mention a couple more later. Okay, so that's 2 technologies. Number 3, is this a technology or a technique? I don't know. Gated content, very simple idea. It's been around, I'm tempted to say 10 years, it's probably 20 years now. If you see a document on a website that you like, you click on it, it downloads. That's just a normal document. That's ungated content. Gated content is you see a document on the website, you click on it, a form pops up and says, what's your name? What's your email address? That's gated. And the form is, if you like, the gate. You have to provide your information to get through the gate and get the document. So it's very simple. Let's see it in action again. So now we've come to our website. Again, this is all live. You can go and see it yourselves afterwards if you want to, just to check I'm not doing anything nefarious during the webinar. Gated content will normally be linked to a web page on the same topic. So here is our web page on lead generation, and over there on the right is our gated content, our little black book on lead generation. You'll see the page there. Now this page is all about the little black book, our item of gated content. Picture of it, information about what it is, and a form for downloading it. That's all there is to gated content. It is a very simple concept. But again, like pop-ups, there are certain golden rules you need to follow to make sure gated content works for you. Number 1, the content you offer has got to be valuable. Now, it doesn't mean, that valuable that the Earth stops spinning on its axis, but it's just got to be valuable enough for somebody to say, yeah, for that, I'll tell you my name, I'll tell you my email address. That's how valuable it needs to be. You need to be clear on your landing page, the page which contains the form, about what people are going to get and what the benefit is to them. You also need to make sure that that page is very simple. That page only has one purpose, and that is to get somebody to fill in the form and click on the button. So get rid of anything that's talking about stuff that's not the gated content. Get rid of all the menus, get rid of absolutely everything except the description of the gated content and the form. Next, limit the number of questions that you ask, or at least the number of questions that are mandatory, because the more questions you force people to answer, the fewer people will fill in your form. If you make your gated content part of a marketing automation process, we'll deal with this later, but if you do that, you can get that extra information later. So for example, I'm going to use the field job title. Didn't fill in a job title, but you can get that information later using marketing automation. Next up, make sure your website includes gated and ungated content. I mean, just imagine how unfriendly a website would appear if every time you wanted to download just a brochure, it said, who are you? What's your email address? Yeah. Again, we're talking about converting anonymous visitors into paying customers. They've got to like you to make that journey. And if you make everything gated, they ain't going to like you and they ain't going to become your customer. So mix gated and ungated content. Next, make sure you've got a distribution mechanism. So when somebody asks for that document, it gets to them. Doesn't have to be marketing automation. That's our preferred way of doing it, because it works 24/7 and the document is just sent out. But it could be that you just use a very simple forms program on your website that sends an email to Simon in the office and Simon sends the PDF out. No problem at all doing it that way. Just make sure you've got a process and that process works. And then finally, set your expectations accordingly. Gated content, as I said, has been around for decades. It's not new. Do not expect to put an item of gated content on your website and then get drowned by leads the next day. It won't happen. But the beauty of gated content is that it's there 24/7, 365 days a year, and it just trickles a number of leads into your sales funnel. It picks up a few of the visitors on your website who are anonymous and identifies them so that then you can nurture them into becoming customers. So it will deliver results, but it won't deliver spectacular results, or very rarely anyway. So that's what gated content is. How do you put it into action? Well, again, show notes contain most of the details. If you just wanted to do the simple, have a form on your website and send an email to Simon, you could use something like Contact Form 7 or Ninja Forms. They're just enormously popular forms tools. You can obviously use all the big marketing automation platforms, Salesforce, Marketo, HubSpot, etc. We again would be promoting the Zoho One suite because it includes Marketing Hub, which is the marketing automation program. It's what does the forms on our website. So all the forms you see, the one I used in that demonstration, is done by Marketing Hub. And that just means that when anyone requests a piece of information, they're into Marketing Hub, and we can then see what happens afterwards. So again, cost-wise, remember, it's that strange system, £30 per month if you subscribe all users, £80 per month if you just subscribe your marketing department. Okay, let's move on to some of the more exciting and advanced technologies. Chatbots, first of all. I love chatbots. Chatbots are those little things that, again, they're a bit like pop-ups. They pop up in the corner of your screen, but they ask you a question or offer to answer a question. So I think you're bound to have come across them at some point already in your journeys across the web. There are three types of chatbots. The first type I'll mention is artificial intelligence, AI chatbots. They're the ones where you type in a question and then it tries to understand what you're asking and present an answer to it. The reason I'm not going to talk about them much, or the reasons, one, they don't work brilliantly yet. They will do, I'm absolutely sure. Technology has a way of getting better over time, but they're more famous at the moment for producing stupid answers or downright offensive answers than they are for providing the right answers. Secondly, they're expensive, not necessarily to purchase, but to develop. And lastly, they're not great for SME websites, which have, you know, a limited amount of content and relatively few visitors, because chatbots, AI chatbots, learn over time. It's like, imagine a 3-year degree course. If you go through all those 3 years learning information all the way and you take the exam at the end of that 3 years, you'll be able to answer the questions. But if you took the exam after 3 weeks instead of 3 years, you wouldn't be able to answer the questions because you wouldn't have learned enough. And that's exactly the situation that AI chatbot would face on an SME website, probably. It just wouldn't learn enough. So the other two types of chatbot that we are going to talk about today, first of all, live chat. That's quite simple. That's the thing where it pops up and it says, do you want to speak to somebody? And you say yes, and then it connects you with Tracy in the office. So it's human talking via the chatbot to Tracy in the office, human to human communication, live chat. Very simple. I'll show you later. The most exciting technology, though, is the third type of chatbot. And these are the scripted menu-driven chatbots. The one that they're the kind of chatbots that, because of the page you're on, we know what you're interested in. Therefore, we'll present some of the typical questions people ask to do with that topic. And you can then say, yeah, I am interested in that. I don't understand that. Explain it to me. And then you can provide not an answer, a series of answers, again, because the whole goal is to take that visitor on a journey from becoming a visitor to someone who's engaged with your website and then becomes a customer later. There are two ways you can see chatbots like this in action. We're going to demonstrate one during this webinar, and the other you can go and see afterwards on our website. If you go to the page, the right-hand page, you can see there, our brand marketing page. You will see Bridget, who is our brand marketing bot. We do love alliteration. And she will pop up on the brand page and say, what's your main concern about brand? Is it that, and she then lists three most important, most typical questions. Brand needs a boost, nobody's ever heard of us, or people only know a fraction of what we do. And there's a fourth option, I just need to speak to somebody. So that's what will happen with, if you go to the brand page and speak to Bridget. What I'm going to do today, though, is use a demo chatbot, Dave. Again, alliteration at work. Dave, like chatbots like Dave, are similar to pop-ups in that you don't want them to appear straight away. Give your visitors a chance to look at what's on the page. Then, as you can see now, Dave has popped up. And the way we use Dave is, yeah, you can do it. You can have a chatbot that just proposes a text question and presents a text answer. But how about something smarter? And Dave is all about showing you the really smart things that chatbots can do in these conversations they have with visitors on your website. So first of all, let's say somebody's come on your website, they've asked a question, and you know the answer is on a web page. Well, the first thing you can do is direct people to a different web page. Now, it could be, and it's most likely to be a web page on your website, but it could be a web page on somebody else's website as well. It's completely up to you. Let's say then, second example, they've asked a question and you know that actually you've got a document that contains the answer to that question. Well, you could let them just receive the document straight from the chatbot, or if it's gated content, you can direct them to the page on your website that hosts that gated content. Let's look at slightly more sophisticated things. Let's say your chatbot has had a conversation with somebody and now you need to either send them something or send one of your service engineers out to them. Yes, you could just ask them to type in their address, but then you get lots of typos and people don't like doing that kind of thing. People like clicking on maps nowadays. You can do that with a chatbot. And remember, there's no human being here. So, bizarre sense of humor time again. This is not a fake map. This is a real map. There's a real place in West Sussex called World's End. So when the map appears, it can be centered on any location. It would probably be your office. You can set a radius, a valid radius around that location. So we're not going to go more than 50 miles. So we'll set a 50-mile radius. In this example, I have to say I'm slightly predictable because I always pick someone somewhere in that road, and you're going to see why in a minute. So you pick a location from the map and say send location. The location then goes back to the chatbot, and the chatbot can email it to your logistics department, your service engineers or whatever. And now you can see why I picked it, because that's called Freaks Lane near World's End in West Sussex. I just think I'm going to have to move there. It just sounds such a cool place. Okay, so let's say you're using your chatbot in a service situation and you need to show, someone where a button is particularly. You can just show them a picture and you can zoom that picture into full screen as well. But rather like the image map example I used earlier, let's say you've shown them a picture of a button and where it is. Now they want to know what happens when they press that button, or what steps they have to go through to achieve a certain objective. Well, you can show them a video as well. And remember, again, this is the chatbot doing all of this. You set it up initially and then leave it running, and it runs 24/7, 365 days a year. Your service team, your sales team, whoever, they're not doing anything. This is all completely automatic. So you can show videos as well. Let's say you've had a discussion, now you need to book an appointment. You can do that through the chatbot as well. So let's say pick a date and time. It will obviously start from today. You can put a limit on the date range. So in this example, I can book an appointment a month ahead, but no further. So let's say I can book that on the 19th of May at 2:40. Click the schedule button to say I've picked a time, and that the chatbot now has that date and time. It could send it to your service engineers or whatever. If the answer to somebody's question is not going to be, we send an engineer out to you, we send a salesman out to you, it's going to be, we've got a brilliant webinar on that topic. Do you want to register? Yes, please. So you can just say, okay, this time you're picking a date and time again, but you don't want to give someone a complete open calendar because your webinar doesn't run all the time. It runs on specific dates and times. So we'll pick September the 1st, and I can pick 9 or 4. I'll pick 4 p.m, confirm that. Once again, the chatbot has the date and time. It can now send that to wherever to register the person for the webinar. Then this option, I said it's a bit simple earlier, live chat. So let's say you want to talk to somebody, you can just click that button and it connects you with somebody through your phone, normal phone system. Can't do that in a demo because the person you speak to is me and I'm talking to you already. But that's how the live chat feature does work. Finally, there are several options for getting ratings as well, and other types of numeric or scaled information. So if you're using your website for service offerings, if you just want to get feedback from people, you can take happiness ratings from them on a scale of 1 to 3 or 1 to 5. And again, the chatbot has it and then can send it to whatever application you use to record those details. If a scale of 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 is too complicated, if it's too detailed, you can just do like or dislike. So I'll say dislike there, and you can record that answer as well. If, let's say, you're using the chatbot in a sales environment, you might want to ask people what their budget is, and you can give them a scale, or it could be, you know, weights, lengths, anything really. As you can see here, we're using it just to say, well, how big is your house? Frivolous example, I know, but you can use it for just about anything. So you get the response, you provide the answer to the chatbot, and the chatbot then sends it on to the sales department or whatever. If you were using it in a sales environment and you were asking for budget, then you probably might not be able to say what exactly is your budget because the visitor might not know that, but they might be able to tell you it's between a low number and a high number. You can do that with what the chatbot calls ranged scales. So you can put that in, and in this example, it's just asking about how much sleep do you like at night. So that's what you can do with a chatbot. You would never use or produce a chatbot that uses all of those features. This is Demo Dave. This is just a chatbot that shows you all the things you can do. But hopefully that has been quite revealing in a way that you now know that a chatbot is A, completely accessible to SMEs, B, remember it's completely automatic. No human being was sitting in the background working that demo as I showed it to you. And it's utterly affordable for SMEs, and it can do phenomenal things. You go to enterprise websites, you know, the British Gases, the Adidas and all these kind of people, they don't have chatbots that clever. But you can have it even if you're an SME, because you just have to get the right tools. So let's go back to our presentation. That's how chatbots work. How do you put them into action? Well, there are lots of tools you can use to put chatbots into action, depending on what exactly you want to do. If you just want the live chat feature, you can use Zendesk. That's a tool I used in the past, or you can use Talk2 or Tidio. There are lots of tools available for that. Obviously, there are other ones if you just want to do the ranking systems, the happiness ratings, the like, dislike. You can use multi-rating or rating widget. Chatbots are also a fairly standard feature with most marketing automation platforms like Marketo, Salesforce, Pardot, and HubSpot. We use, again, Zoho One. I said earlier, it's this suite of 40 applications. One of those applications is called Sales IQ. It's a website analysis and interaction tool. It includes chatbots. Again, it's part of Zoho One, this suite of applications that costs either £30 or £80 per user per month. The real question, though, with chatbots is, can you develop them yourself? Because it's a bit like a programming language, the development of a chatbot. And my answer there would be this. If you've got somebody in your organization who's a pucker programmer who can use C++ or something clever like that, they'll have no trouble at all. They'll go to it like a duck to water. If you've got someone who's not a programmer, but they're a bit of a computer whiz, and they've done development with VBA, Visual Basic for Applications, then yeah, they'll have to do a bit of conversion to understand the language, but they'll be fine as well. If you don't have either of those kind of person, then that's when you call us and we develop the chatbot for you. Okay, that's technology number 4. Let's move on to the final one. Technology number 5, marketing automation, because this is the granddaddy of all of them. This is what brings everything together. This is, if you want something, as if you like, a single tool that will really help you engage with someone who starts off as a visitor on your website, and then you can identify them and nurture them all the way through until they become either a customer, if you sell direct from your website, or a marketing qualified lead who your sales team can phone. If you want a tool that takes people all the way through that journey, that's what marketing automation is, because it helps you identify people in the first place, and then it allows you to run a process, as you can see on screen, that kind of thing. That's how you build them. You just drop the blocks in place. Develop a process that someone follows, and once they're known, you just nurture their interest and you persuade them to become a customer, or at least you know when they become a qualified lead. Because the key to marketing automation is it knows what everybody does. Now, if you've got email running already, if you've got you do MailChimp or something like that, then you're already familiar with the idea that you can tell what links people click on. But how much better off would you be if you knew not just what they did in response to emails, but what they did on your website as well? It gives you a whole new dimension. With marketing automation, you understand, yes, what pages they've visited, what images they've zoomed in on, what hotspots on an image map they've clicked on, yes, what emails they've been sent, what emails they've responded to, and so on. It just gives you a complete idea of what people are doing in their reactions to what information you offer them. And to illustrate the advantages, imagine you use email marketing as your main tool for business generation, which is not a bad idea at all. It's still the most cost-effective way of keeping in touch with people. But if you're combining your email marketing with a passive website, i.e. website without marketing automation, you've got a website that doesn't tell you what people are doing, then let's say you sell workwear and you sell fireproof workwear, waterproof workwear, PPE, cosmetic workwear, you know, just pretty caps and that kind of thing. If you don't know what people have looked at on your website, then you've got to send emails to everybody, because you don't know. You can't say, I've got a segment of people who are interested in fireproof workwear. You don't have that segment. You don't know that. So you send it to everybody. You also have to tell everybody about everything, because the same reason, you don't know what they're interested in. Consequence, you annoy most of your customers, because 90% of what you send them is not relevant. I want waterproof workwear. I don't care about your PPE workwear or your fireproof workwear. What also happens, you decimate your mailing list, because people keep on pressing that unsubscribe button. If you buy mailing lists, which is not something we recommend anyway, but if you buy mailing lists, that's going to be a significant expense for you, because you're going to have to keep on topping up your mailing list to make up for the people who unsubscribed. And then finally, you're going to get very little new business out of it, because people just aren't going to be responding to you, and you're absolutely not going to be developing a positive relationship with them. Now compare that with a situation where you do have marketing automation, so your website is telling you what people are interested in. All of a sudden, you can send that email to people who've expressed an interest and shown an interest in fireproof workwear, because you know who they are. You can make sure that the emails you send to those people are about fireproof workwear. Yes, you can cross-sell if you want to, but you can focus on what you know they're interested in. The end result is you attract people, you build a stronger relationship, you respect their interest, you're not bombarding them. You know they're interested in fireproof workwear, you're going to send them stuff about fireproof workwear. It means you improve the quality of your mailing list, or your database really, because it sits in marketing automation, because you know what people are interested in and what they've shown is their particular area of focus. End result, you do generate more business. So today, as I said, is a day for demonstrations. So let's see marketing automation in action. Go away, Dave, you've done your bit. So there is a marketing automation demo on our website. You can just go and follow it yourselves afterwards. I'm going to show you a shortened version of it today, because the first part, for example, of the demo talks about how marketing automation uses pop-ups to identify anonymous visitors and convert them into known customers. Well, I've shown you pop-ups already. Then there's a section where you identify yourself, you put your name and email address into the demo, and emails will be sent to you. Don't want to tell us who you actually are? No problem. Just use email on deck, as I'm going to show you in a second, because I'm using it myself today, and that allows you to run the entire demo using a temporary email address. Then there are several other stages I've done before. I do sound like a cookery show, I know. I've prepared these before because some of these steps take 30 minutes to process, because they involve quite a lot of processing in the background. In real life, that's not a problem at all. 30 minutes is nothing. For this webinar, it doesn't work at all. So I've done these steps before. I've taken the situation again of pretending to be someone interested in brand marketing. I've clicked on that link to go to a page on brand advertising, on that page to go to a page on brand attributes, and that page to go to a page, that link to go to a page on weak brands. I've also then clicked on a link to go to a page about terms and conditions of sale. So what has happened in the background is the website now knows that I'm someone who's interested in brand marketing and quite close to a purchase. Well, that's the scenario I'm suggesting here. Quite close to purchase because I'm looking at terms and conditions of sale, and normally that's the kind of thing people look at last before they put their name to a contract. So in the background, what has happened for the purpose of this demonstration? Everything I did resulted in an email. So you can see, first of all, it checked it was really me, double opt-in procedure. When I clicked the brand advertising page, it sent me an email. Not a realistic situation. You wouldn't send somebody an email when they've just visited one page. But after I'd clicked on those 3 pages about brand, in this scenario, I'm saying we're using that as a strong indication of interest in brand. That is now the time where we'll start sending you our series about email marketing. In real life, you wouldn't just be visiting 3 web pages. You'd probably want to say, I've downloaded this, maybe attended a webinar, maybe I've looked at particular images, whatever. You'd have a combination of factors that would say there's a threshold. When you reach that threshold, you're interested in the topic, we're going to send you the email series. To continue the demo, though, we're going to do a couple of actions and activities that process an awful lot faster. So I'm just going to select the scorecard picture, zoom into it. I'm going to show, here's that picture again, the image map of an aircraft. And this time, you can't see it, but I'm clicking on the cargo bay. So imagine I was actually Airbus or Boeing or something like that, and a visitor to their website has clicked on the cargo bay to find out more information, because maybe they're an airline who's more focused on cargo rather than passengers. So what will be happening in the background is those will be processing now. And it's important to notice that with marketing automation, it's not all about which pages people have visited. It's about what activities they did as well, because pages are a little bit blunt, really, as an instrument. You want to know what people do on those pages, how they interact with them, what pictures they click on, and what images they view, what downloads they take. You want all of that information. And what you'll do in response is not like this demo. You won't send an email every time somebody does something on your website. That's really going to freak out your visitors if you do that. That's cyber stalking in the worst possible way. We do that in this demo to show you that our website recognizes when you do things. In real life, what you do is you monitor those actions, and you therefore understand, you build up a good picture of what somebody's interested in, so that you can send them emails that are just about the topics they're interested in. Again, yes, you can cross-sell if you want to, but basically you make sure every communication you have is relevant to the people you're sending it to. That's how you build a strong relationship. That's how you take those anonymous, casual visitors and turn them into customers. So let me stop waffling and show you just what's happened. So it noticed that I clicked on the scorecard image. It noticed I clicked on the cargo bay. Coming back to the gated content example earlier, I said you don't want to ask people too much information, because with marketing automation, you can get it later anyway. So I didn't fill in the job title in the form when I started this marketing automation demo earlier. So now marketing automation has said, okay, well, let's think about this. When someone filled in the form, they didn't know who we were. They probably didn't trust us enough to tell us details like job title, phone number. But look at all this. We've had all these emails going backwards and forwards now. We're a bit more engaged. They probably do trust us now. So how about telling us, asking them for the job title now, or their phone number or something like that? You've got a better chance of getting that information. This final email I'll actually open because it's really important. Marketing automation is a brilliant tool for nurturing interest, but unless you sell from your website, the end result is not a sale, it's a marketing qualified lead. It's something your company's sales department has to follow up. Your company's sales department do not use marketing automation. That's a marketing tool. They use CRM. So there's got to be some way of taking information from the marketing automation to the CRM system, and there is. And what's happened in this demo is the information has gone from marketing automation to CRM, and that triggered an action, which in this instance for the demo is it sends another email. In real life, it would be an alert that goes to Suzanne in the sales department saying, this is what this person's done. This is why we think they're a marketing qualified lead now. Give them a call. That's how marketing and sales work together. Particularly important point. So that's the adverts. Email on deck is a free tool, so you do get bombarded with adverts left, right, and center. So that's marketing automation in action. It is a phenomenally good tool. It is just absolutely wonderful, and it does bring everything you want to do together. And it's accessible to SMEs. This is not a tool just for enterprises. Most enterprises don't do it. You employ marketing automation, you are way ahead of most big organizations. How do you put it into action? Yeah, I'm beginning to sound like a broken record, aren't I? I do realize that. Marketing automation, I said, you can do it with the main platforms, if you like, the big names, the Salesforces, the Marketos, the HubSpots, Microsoft Dynamics marketing as well. Problem with all of those, they're pretty expensive. Actually, in a previous life, we did a whole exercise on them, and yeah, it was very expensive. Whereas Marketing Hub is part of Zoho One, this bank of applications, which includes things like Zoho Meeting, which is running this webinar. It's a bit like Zoom. And it's £30 a month or £80 a month. However, I don't want to sound like the ultimate Zoho fanboy, because when you're dealing with Zoho or using Zoho products, you do need to be aware of what I would call, if you like, the government health warning, which goes something like this. Zoho is not a fun company to work with, unfortunately. If you deal with the individuals on tech support and that kind of thing, they bend over backwards and they do everything they can to help you. But there's something seriously wrong with the company behind them, because they, to be blunt, do not give a shit about customers, or they certainly give that impression. They make Ryanair look like a warm, cuddly and caring organization. They just don't give off a good impression at all. Secondly, I don't know if you've heard of the principle of minimum viable product. That's the idea that you don't perfect a product, and then release it onto the market. You just get a few things working, release it, and then fix everything else while it's in the field. That's absolutely what they did with spades on, with bells on. I'm getting my metaphors mixed up there. With Marketing Hub particularly, Marketing Hub is on version 1 at the moment, and it was released way too early. From that demo, you can see that you can do wonderful things with Marketing Hub, and we have done, but it's taken us about 12 months to get to that point, to work out, if you imagine a process is you've got to go A, B, C. Well, with Marketing Hub, it's actually A, P, Q, R, D, C, B, then Z, F, P, 42 squared, C. It just takes that long to work out all the workarounds you have to do because things never quite work how you expect them to. Zoho 1, as I said, is this suite of 40 applications. That might imply that all these applications work very smoothly together. Well, they don't. There is integration between them, but it's not as smooth as you might assume. For example, you saw the integration between Marketing Hub and CRM, but what you didn't see is it's actually you use one technique to get the information from CRM to Marketing Hub and another technique to get it from Marketing Hub back to CRM. Go figure. And finally, there's massive overlap between these applications. I think I've mentioned before that the forms on our website are generated by Marketing Hub. They are. But I could have put forms on my website using Zoho CRM. I could have put them on my website using Zoho Campaigns, which is their email marketing tool. It's like a subset of Marketing Hub. It's a bit like MailChimp. Or I could have used Zoho's the custom application called Zoho Forms. All of those things do forms. They all do them in a slightly different way with different capabilities, and Zoho gives you no guidance at all as to which one you ought to be using. So massive overlap. Despite that government health warning, you'll have noticed we do still promote Zoho 1. So why do we still promote it? Well, first of all, it is phenomenally good value. I mean, in examples, £30 per user per month or £80 per user per month. Compare that to one of those big marketing automation platforms. It's phenomenally good value. But we're not talking about just marketing automation. For that price, you get all of Zoho 1. So you get the Sales IQ that do your chatbots. You get Zoho Meeting that does these this webinar. You get Zoho Social for social media posting. There's a whole load of stuff you get. So it is phenomenally good value. Second thing I'd say is if you use us as a buffer between you and Zoho, you get the benefits of what the tools can do without the grief of actually having to deal with the company. And that is a big benefit. And lastly, we know that every release of Zoho products will be better than the last. And as I said, Marketing Hub is on version 1 at the moment. It was released early, but so it's had a lot of workarounds that need to be discovered. But I don't know what Salesforce 1 looked like, but it might have been like this. I am old enough to remember what Windows 1 looked like. Windows 1 was an absolutely god-awful product, and yet here we are. Most of the world now runs on Windows. So Marketing Hub version 2, for example, which is coming out in the third quarter of 2021, will, I'm sure, be an awful lot better. What you get now with Zoho products is good, probably great. What you're going to get in the future will be absolutely fantastic. So that's why I still feel comfortable saying Zoho is the way to go. Okay, so I'm going to stop screen sharing now and go to stop screen share. Okay, so now we'll go to any questions. So you can just type questions in through the panel on the left hand side of your window. So I should just pull those up and see what has come through already. Okay, so we've invested a lot in videos. Wouldn't these be a better way of engaging customers? Videos are brilliant. You can use videos in all number of ways. The disadvantage with videos is, the advantage is obviously you can explain a lot with video, and you increase time on page because someone clicks on the button, plays the video, and they're there for 3 or 4 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. The disadvantage is They're not signposts necessarily to other parts of the website to get people deeper into your website. And they're not very interactive. There's not an awful lot of clicking going on. You click once, the video plays, that's it. But your videos that you've done would be phenomenally useful, even more powerful, if you integrated them into a chatbot, if you integrated them into an image map, something like that. So what you've got with videos, absolutely fantastic, but you can probably do even more with them. Next question. Okay. How did you do the rolling demo at the beginning? Okay. Just download the show notes. It's in the show notes simply because a lot of people ask me that. I mean, we're all used to doing presentations or watching webinars where you have a static screen at the beginning, and that to me has always been a terrible shame, because you know, telling anyone anything with that. So rolling demo, it's quite simple to set up. In short, all of your presentation is on hidden slides. The only slides that aren't hidden are the rolling slides at the beginning. So you let those run on a loop, and when you want to go into the presentation itself, you might have noticed me clicking on the little triangle in the bottom right hand corner. That zooms me into the hidden section of the presentation. That's not a great explanation. Full instructions are in the show notes. How do image maps work on mobiles? I was just wondering how to answer that. The short answer is they don't work brilliantly on mobiles, because image maps work best when you use a mouse to hover over a hotspot, then click on it and do the action. You can't use a mouse and hover over a hotspot on a smartphone. It doesn't have that functionality. The hotspots will still work if you click on them, but because you can't hover, you can't really tell that well where the hotspots are. So they sort of work, but they're not brilliant. They're mainly for desktops. Okay. You mentioned that you wouldn't recommend using pop-ups for known users, but in your demo you did use a pop-up for known users. Well, that wins a gold star for attentiveness. That does. Yeah, you're quite right. So if you remember, I said in the pop-up section, all pop-ups are intrusive to a degree. You can make them better, and you should make them better, but don't use them for known visitors, because you don't want to annoy those visitors. So what you ought to do is just keep them for anonymous visitors, but you did see me use a pop-up on a known visitor earlier. So let me just show you. That's just something I do in this demo. So I am going to share my screen again just to show you behind the scenes what happened. Can I share screen again? Oh, I'm not sure I can share screen, but basically what I did is I've got that pop-up. There's two versions of it, one for anonymous users and one for known users. Before this webinar starts, I activate the one for known users, and then when the webinar finishes, I deactivate it. And in case you're wondering, have I ever done this webinar and forgotten to switch the pop-up on? Of course I have, because I'm an idiot. And I felt like a prize chump when I did that, because I was sitting there, what's going wrong? What's going wrong? Yeah, the idiot behind the wheel forgot to switch it on. So that's what you do. I'll be switching it off afterwards. Okay, so that's all the questions. So thank you very much indeed for joining us, and you can contact me, obviously. I've got website details that you saw during the webinar. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much indeed.